The gate stands open. After 17 years, Sarah returns to find her grandmother's house exactly as it was left, curtains still hanging in the windows, the porch swing swaying slightly in the wind, the garden overtaken by wild growth. But the gate that was always locked, that her grandmother never left open, now hangs wide on rusted hinges. Someone has been here, or something has kept this place waiting. If you're fascinated by stories of places frozen in time and the memories they hold, subscribe to the channel and hit the bell so you don't miss any exploration. Now, let me tell you how Sarah came to stand before this gate after nearly 2 decades of absence. This house sits at the end of Maple Ridge Road, 3 miles outside the small town of Millbrook, population 2,147. It's the kind of place where everyone knows everyone, where secrets are currency and memories run deeper than the roots of the old oak trees lining the streets. Sarah's grandmother, Eleanor Mitchell, lived in this 2-story Victorian home for 53 years. She raised her daughter here, then helped raise Sarah when Sarah's own mother passed away from cancer when Sarah was just 4 years old. The house was more than structure and wood. It was the only stable home Sarah ever knew. Eleanor was a meticulous woman, a retired schoolteacher who kept everything in perfect order. Neighbors remember her tending the rose garden every morning at 7, the way she'd wave from the porch, how she'd bake pies for the church fundraiser every October without fail. The house always smelled of lavender and old books, a combination Sarah can still recall with perfect clarity even now, standing here as a 32-year-old single mother with a 6-year-old daughter waiting in the car behind her. But in the spring of 2008, everything changed. Sarah was 15 years old, navigating the complicated waters of high school, when Eleanor suffered a massive stroke. It happened on a Tuesday morning, right there in the kitchen, while she was making her usual breakfast of toast and tea. A neighbor found her 6 hours later when Eleanor didn't answer the door for their weekly card game. Eleanor survived, but she was never the same. The stroke left her unable to speak clearly, unable to care for herself, unable to live independently in the home she'd occupied for over half a century. Sarah's aunt Rebecca, Eleanor's daughter-in-law from her late son's marriage, made the decision quickly. Eleanor would move to Sunset Hills Care Facility in the city, 90 miles away. Sarah, still a minor with no legal say, was sent to live with her father's distant cousin in another state. She never wanted to go. She begged to stay, to finish school in Millbrook, to be near her grandmother. But at 15, her voice didn't matter in the decisions adults made. The house was locked up with the intention of selling it. Rebecca hired someone to cover the furniture, to winterize the pipes, to secure the windows. "We'll deal with it after Eleanor passes," she told Sarah during one of their few phone conversations. "No point in selling while she's still alive. It would break her heart." But Eleanor didn't pass quickly. She lived in that care facility for 7 more years, her mind gradually fading, her body growing frailer, until she finally slipped away in her sleep in 2015 at the age of 81. Sarah was 22 then, struggling through community college, working 2 jobs, and pregnant with her daughter Emma. She couldn't afford to travel to the funeral. She couldn't afford to do anything but survive. Rebecca promised to handle the estate. She said she'd sell the house and split whatever remained after debts and expenses. Sarah signed the papers that were mailed to her, trusting that her aunt would do right by Eleanor's memory. But months passed, then years. Sarah never saw a penny. Her calls went unreturned. Her emails bounced back. It was as if Rebecca had vanished, taking Eleanor's estate with her. Sarah tried to follow up, but lawyers cost money she didn't have, and the house was in another state, and she had a baby to feed. So she let it go. She buried the hurt alongside her memories of lavender and old books, and a grandmother who had been the only mother she'd ever really known. Until 3 weeks ago, when Sarah received a letter from the Millbrook County Tax Assessor's office. The property at 1847 Maple Ridge Road was delinquent on taxes. It was scheduled for auction in 60 days unless the outstanding balance of $14,783 was paid in full. The letter was addressed to Estate of Eleanor Mitchell or current owner. Sarah made calls. She discovered that Rebecca had never sold the house. She'd never paid the taxes. She'd simply abandoned it, just as she'd abandoned her promises. Further investigation revealed that Rebecca had moved to Florida 6 years ago and had filed for bankruptcy. The house had been sitting empty, untouched, for 17 years. Sarah couldn't afford to pay the back taxes. She couldn't afford to keep a house 3 states away. But she also couldn't let her grandmother's home, the only place she'd ever felt truly loved, go to auction without at least seeing it one more time. So she loaded 6-year-old Emma into their 15-year-old Honda Civic, took 3 days off from her job at the grocery store, and drove 847 miles to Millbrook. She told herself she was coming to take photos for closure, to grab any personal items that might remain, to say a proper goodbye to the place that raised her. But deep down, she was coming because she needed to understand why the gate was open. The tax assessor had mentioned it on the phone. "Ma'am, I drove by last week to post the notice. The gate was standing open. You might want to check on that property. Could be squatters." Notice. The drive takes Sarah down roads she remembers from childhood, past the elementary school where Eleanor volunteered as a reading tutor, past the library where they spent countless Saturday afternoons, past the diner where Eleanor would treat her to chocolate milkshakes after good report cards. Millbrook hasn't changed much. The same hardware store, the same church with the white steeple, the same feeling of time moving slower here than in the rest of the world. But as Sarah turns onto Maple Ridge Road, her hands tighten on the steering wheel. The trees have grown taller, their branches forming a canopy that blocks out much of the afternoon sun. The road seems narrower than she remembers, more isolated. Houses become sparse, then disappear entirely as she approaches the end of the road. And then she sees it. The house emerges from the overgrowth like a ship rising from fog. The Victorian structure still stands, its pale yellow paint now faded to the color of old parchment, peeling in long strips that curl away from the wood like dried skin. The wraparound porch sags slightly on the left side. Several shutters hang at odd angles. The roof appears intact, but moss grows thick on the north-facing slope. The garden that Eleanor tended with such pride has exploded into wild chaos. Roses grown into massive thorny tangles, hedges stretched into misshapen giants, weeds claiming every inch of the front yard. But it's the gate that holds Sarah's attention. The wrought-iron gate that Eleanor painted black every spring, that she kept locked with a heavy padlock, that marked the boundary between the Mitchell property and the rest of the world. It stands open, completely open. The padlock is gone. The gate itself leans slightly, one hinge broken, but it's been pushed wide as if welcoming visitors. Sarah parks on the road and tells Emma to stay in the car. "Mommy needs to check something first, baby. I'll be right back." Emma, absorbed in her tablet, barely looks up. Sarah approaches the gate slowly, her heart pounding in a way that feels both like coming home and like approaching something forbidden. She steps through the open gate and onto the property. The gravel driveway crunches under her feet, loud in the heavy silence. No birds sing, no insects buzz. The air feels thick, expectant. As she walks toward the house, she notices details that don't make sense. The porch, despite 17 years of abandonment, isn't completely covered in leaves and debris. There are clear spots, as if someone has swept recently. One of the rocking chairs on the porch is positioned differently than she remembers, angled toward the door rather than facing the road. Sarah climbs the 3 steps to the porch, and the wood groans under her weight, but holds firm. She reaches the front door, and her breath catches. The door is closed, but not locked. She can see where the lock has been forced. The wood around the mechanism splintered and broken. This wasn't recent damage. The exposed wood has weathered to grey. Someone broke in years ago. But when? And why? Sarah's hand trembles as she reaches for the doorknob. Part of her wants to turn around, get back in the car, drive away and let the county auction this place to someone else. Let it become someone else's problem, someone else's mystery. But she's come too far. She's carried this place in her heart for 17 years. She needs to see what's inside. She needs to know what happened to her grandmother's home. The doorknob turns easily in her hand. The door swings inward with a long, mournful creak that echoes through the interior. And Sarah steps across the threshold into the past. The smell hits her first. Not the lavender and old books she expected, but something else. Dust and decay, yes, but underneath that, something almost alive. Mildew, damp wood, and something else she can't quite identify. The air is cool despite the warm afternoon outside, as if the house holds on to winter even in summer. Sarah's eyes adjust to the dimness. Heavy curtains still cover most of the windows, filtering the sunlight into a grey twilight that fills the rooms with shadows. She's standing in the entryway, and directly ahead is the staircase leading to the second floor. To her left is the living room. To her right is the dining room, and beyond that the kitchen. Everything is exactly where it should be, and yet everything is wrong. The living room draws her first. She steps through the wide doorway and stops, her hand flying to her mouth. The furniture is still here, all of it. The floral sofa where she used to read, the matching armchair where Eleanor would sit with her knitting, the coffee table with the glass top, the bookshelf that covered an entire wall still filled with books. But everything is covered in a thick layer of dust, and the air is heavy with the weight of abandonment. Sarah moves closer to the bookshelf, her fingers trailing along the spines. Pride and Prejudice. To Kill a Mockingbird. The complete works of Emily Dickinson, Eleanor's favorites. Sarah pulls out the Dickinson, and the book falls open to a page marked with a dried flower, a rose from the garden, now brown and brittle. Eleanor's handwriting in the margin. Because I could not stop for death, he kindly stopped for me. The date written beneath, April 3rd, 2008. 2 weeks before the stroke. Sarah carefully replaces the book and turns to survey the rest of the room. On the mantel above the fireplace, photographs still stand in their frames, now coated in dust. Sarah approaches and wipes the glass of the nearest frame with her sleeve. Her own face looks back at her. Sarah, at age 12, gap-toothed and grinning, holding up a trophy from the school spelling bee. Eleanor stands beside her in the photo, her arm around Sarah's shoulders, pride evident in every line of her face. Sarah's throat tightens. She moves to the next photo, Eleanor and her late husband George on their wedding day in 1962. Another photo, Eleanor holding a baby, Sarah's mother. Another, Sarah as a toddler, sitting in Eleanor's lap on the porch swing. An entire life documented in silver frames on a mantel in an abandoned house, but something catches Sarah's eye. One of the frames is turned face down. She picks it up, brushes off the dust, and turns it over. The glass is cracked, spiderwebbed from some impact. But through the cracks she can see the photo, Rebecca, Eleanor's daughter-in-law, the woman who promised to care for everything and then disappeared. Someone has turned this photo down deliberately, recently enough that there's less dust on the back of the frame than on the others. Sarah sets the frame down carefully and moves toward the dining room. The long oak table still dominates the space, surrounded by 8 chairs. Place settings remain on the table, plates and silverware arranged as if waiting for a meal that never came. But these aren't dusty antiques. These are relatively clean. Sarah leans closer. There's no dust on these plates. None. In a house abandoned for 17 years, where every surface is coated in grey film, these plates are clean. Her heart begins to race. She reaches out and touches one of the plates. It's cold, but there's a faint residue on the surface, as if someone ate from it and wiped it clean, but didn't wash it properly. Sarah jerks her hand back. If you're finding this exploration as unsettling as Sarah is, leave a like to support the channel. There's still so much more to discover in this house, and what Sarah finds upstairs will change everything. Sarah forces herself to breathe slowly, to think rationally. Maybe the tax assessor was right. Maybe squatters have been using the house. That would explain the open gate, the forced lock, the clean plates, but it doesn't explain why they'd leave everything else untouched, why they'd carefully turn down Rebecca's photo, why the house feels less like it's been invaded and more like it's been inhabited. Sarah moves into the kitchen, and here the signs of time are more evident. The linoleum floor has curled up at the edges. Water damage stains the ceiling near the window, suggesting a leak in the roof that's since been patched or stopped. The refrigerator door hangs open, its interior dark and empty. But the kitchen table, the small round table where Sarah and Eleanor ate breakfast together every morning, still has 2 chairs pulled up to it, and on the table sits a mug, a single ceramic mug with a faded floral pattern. Sarah recognizes it instantly. Eleanor's favorite mug, the one she used every morning for her tea. Sarah picks up the mug with shaking hands. Inside, there's a dark residue, the remnants of tea or coffee, long since dried to a crusty film. But when Sarah lifts the mug to examine it more closely, she smells something. Faint, barely there, but unmistakable. The scent of Earl Grey tea. Eleanor's tea. The tea she drank every single morning without fail. Sarah sets the mug down quickly, her mind racing. This doesn't make sense. None of this makes sense. She turns to leave the kitchen, to get out of this house and back to the safety of her car and her daughter, but something stops her. A sound, faint, coming from upstairs, a creak like footsteps on old floorboards. Sarah freezes, her breath caught in her throat. The sound comes again. Definitely footsteps, slow, deliberate, moving across the floor above her head. "Hello?" Sarah's voice comes out as a whisper. She clears her throat and tries again, louder. "Hello? Is someone there?" The footsteps stop. The silence that follows is absolute, oppressive. Sarah knows she should leave. Every instinct screams at her to run, to get out, to grab Emma and drive away and never look back. But something else, something stronger, keeps her rooted in place. This is her grandmother's house. This is her house, in a way, the only inheritance she has left. She's not going to be driven out by squatters or her own fear. Sarah moves back through the dining room, through the living room, to the base of the staircase. The stairs rise into darkness, the second floor hidden in shadow. She places her foot on the first step. It creaks loudly. She climbs slowly, each step announcing her presence. The handrail is smooth under her palm, worn by decades of hands sliding along its surface. Eleanor's hand, her mother's hand, her own hand, thousands of times as a child. At the top of the stairs, Sarah pauses. The hallway stretches in both directions. To the left, Eleanor's bedroom and the master bathroom. To the right, the guest room, Sarah's old bedroom, and the second bathroom. Straight ahead, the door to the attic, which Eleanor always kept locked. Sarah turns right first, toward her old bedroom. The door is closed. She pushes it open gently, and the hinges protest with a soft squeal. The room is smaller than she remembers, the way childhood places always are when revisited as an adult. But everything is still here. Her twin bed with the white iron frame, her desk where she did homework, her bookshelf with her collection of young adult novels, her dresser with the mirror. Posters still hang on the walls, bands she loved at 15, actors she thought were cute, a periodic table from her brief phase of wanting to be a scientist. The closet door stands open, and Sarah can see clothes still hanging inside. Her clothes, outfits she wore in middle school, a winter coat, dresses for church. Eleanor never cleared out the room. She kept it exactly as Sarah left it, as if expecting her to come back any day. Sarah sits on the edge of the bed, and the mattress sinks under her weight, springs groaning. On the nightstand beside the bed, there's a framed photo, Sarah and her mother, taken just months before her mother died. Sarah is 3 years old in the photo, sitting on her mother's lap, both of them laughing at something outside the frame. Sarah picks up the photo and holds it close. She has so few memories of her mother, just fragments and impressions and stories, Eleanor told her. This photo is one of the only pieces of evidence that her mother existed, that she was loved, that she was real. Sarah's eyes blur with tears. She sets the photo down carefully and wipes her face with the back of her hand. A sound from the hallway makes her stand abruptly. Footsteps again, but closer now, right outside the bedroom door. Sarah's heart hammers against her ribs. "Who's there?" she calls out, trying to sound brave, authoritative. "This is private property. You need to leave." No response. The footsteps move away, heading toward Eleanor's bedroom. Sarah follows, anger beginning to override her fear. She steps into the hallway and strides toward Eleanor's room. The door is ajar. She pushes it fully open and steps inside. Eleanor's bedroom is the largest in the house, with windows facing both the front and side yards. The four-poster bed dominates the space, still made with Eleanor's wedding ring quilt, the one her own mother had sewn. The dresser, the vanity, the wardrobe, all still in place, but the room is empty. No one is here. Sarah checks behind the door, looks in the wardrobe, even checks under the bed. Nothing. No one. But on Eleanor's vanity, something catches Sarah's eye. The vanity is covered in Eleanor's things, her hairbrush, her hand mirror, her jewelry box, bottles of perfume. But in the center, cleared of dust, sits a piece of paper. Sarah approaches slowly. It's a letter, handwritten on Eleanor's personal stationery, the kind with her name embossed at the top. Sarah picks it up with trembling hands and begins to read. "My dearest Sarah," it begins. "If you're reading this, then you finally come home. I've waited so long for you to come back. I knew you would, eventually. I knew you wouldn't forget me, wouldn't forget this place. There's so much I need to tell you, so much I couldn't say before the stroke took my words away. Rebecca lied to you. She lied to everyone. The house was never meant to be sold. I left it to you in my will, Sarah. Everything was supposed to go to you. But Rebecca convinced me to sign papers when I was in the hospital, when I was confused and couldn't understand what I was signing. She had herself made executor of my estate. She was supposed to give you everything, but she didn't, did she? I know she didn't. I've been watching, Sarah. I've been waiting. The house has been waiting. It's yours. It was always meant to be yours. Check the attic. The truth is in the attic. I love you, my darling girl. I never stopped loving you. Come home. Come home and claim what's yours. All my love, Grandma Eleanor." Sarah's hands shake so violently that the paper flutters. This isn't possible. This letter can't be real. Eleanor died in 2015, 7 years ago. She couldn't have written this. But the handwriting is unmistakably Eleanor's, the same careful script that filled the margins of books and wrote grocery lists and signed birthday cards. Sarah reads the letter again, then a third time. Check the attic. Sarah looks up at the ceiling, as if she could see through it to the attic above, the attic that Eleanor always kept locked, the attic that Sarah was never allowed to enter as a child. "Not for little girls," Eleanor would say with a smile. "Just old junk and memories up there." Sarah leaves Eleanor's bedroom and walks to the end of the hallway. The attic door is painted white, same as all the other doors, but there's something different about it. Something that makes it feel more like a barrier than a passage. Sarah tries the handle. Locked. Of course it's locked. She jiggles the handle harder, frustration building. Then she remembers. Eleanor kept a key ring in the kitchen, hanging on a hook by the back door. All the spare keys were on that ring. Sarah hurries back downstairs, through the living room, through the dining room, into the kitchen. The hook is still there, and hanging from it is the key ring, a dozen keys of various sizes and shapes. Sarah grabs it and runs back upstairs, her footsteps echoing through the empty house. At the attic door, she tries key after key. The fifth one slides into the lock and turns with a satisfying click. Sarah pushes the door open. A narrow staircase leads up into darkness. She feels along the wall and finds a light switch. She flips it, not expecting it to work, but to her surprise, a bare bulb at the top of the stairs flickers to life. Someone has kept the electricity on. Sarah climbs the steep stairs, ducking her head to avoid the low ceiling. The attic is hot and stuffy, the air thick with dust and the smell of old wood. But it's not the chaotic storage space she expected. It's organized, deliberately, carefully organized. Boxes line the walls, each labeled in Eleanor's handwriting. Sarah. Baby clothes. Sarah, school papers. Sarah, art projects. George's military service. Wedding, 1962. Margaret's things. Margaret, Sarah's mother. Sarah moves to the box, labeled with her mother's name, and carefully opens it. Inside are treasures she never knew existed. Her mother's high school yearbooks, her diploma, a journal filled with teenage thoughts and dreams, photos of her mother as a child, as a teenager, as a young woman. Sarah lifts out the journal and opens it to a random page. Her mother's handwriting, young and looping. I'm pregnant. I'm scared and excited and I don't know what to do. But Mom says everything will be okay. Mom says she'll help me. I'm going to name her Sarah after Mom's mother. Sarah Margaret. A strong name for a strong girl. Tears stream down Sarah's face. She clutches the journal to her chest and looks around the attic with new eyes. This isn't just storage. This is a museum, a shrine. Eleanor preserved everything, every piece of the family history, every memory, every connection. She kept it all safe up here, waiting. But there's more. In the corner of the attic, separate from the labeled boxes, sits a filing cabinet. Sarah approaches it and pulls open the top drawer. Inside are folders, meticulously organized and labeled. Property deed. Will, original. Will, revised. Tax records. Rebecca, correspondence. Sarah pulls out the folder labeled Will, original, and opens it. Inside is Eleanor's will, dated 2005, 3 years before the stroke. Sarah reads through the legal language, her heart pounding. I leave my entire estate, including the property located at 1847 Maple Ridge Road, Millbrook, to my granddaughter, Sarah Margaret Mitchell, to be held in trust until her 25th birthday. It's all here, everything Eleanor said in the letter. The house was meant to be Sarah's. But there's another folder, Will Revised. Sarah opens it with shaking hands. This will is dated April 2008, just days after Eleanor's stroke. The language is different, messier, and it names Rebecca as executor with full discretion over the estate. At the bottom, there's a signature that's supposed to be Eleanor's, but Sarah has seen Eleanor's signature thousands of times. This isn't it. This is a forgery, a clumsy, obvious forgery. Sarah sits down hard on the attic floor, folders scattered around her. Rebecca forged Eleanor's signature. She stole the estate. She abandoned the house and let it fall into disrepair and tax delinquency, probably hoping it would be auctioned off and she could claim ignorance. But why? Why go through all this trouble for a house in a small town, a house that's probably not worth much? Sarah keeps digging through the filing cabinet. In the back of the bottom drawer, she finds another folder, this one unlabeled. Inside are bank statements, Eleanor's bank statements, and they show something Sarah never knew. Eleanor wasn't just a retired schoolteacher living on a pension. She had money, a lot of money, nearly $400,000 in savings and investments accumulated over decades of careful saving and wise investing. Money that should have gone to Sarah, money that Rebecca stole. Sarah gathers all the documents, all the evidence of Rebecca's theft and fraud. She'll take these to a lawyer. She'll fight for what's rightfully hers. But more than that, she'll fight for Eleanor's memory, for the grandmother who loved her enough to preserve every piece of their shared history, who kept this house waiting for Sarah to come home. Sarah stands and takes one last look around the attic. In the corner, she notices something else, a small box wrapped in brown paper and tied with string. Her name is written on top in Eleanor's handwriting. Sarah picks it up carefully and unties the string. Inside the box is a key, a single brass key on a simple chain, and beneath it a note, "For Sarah, the key to your future. The house is yours. Come home. Love, Grandma." And Sarah descends from the attic with the box of documents, the key around her neck, and a sense of purpose she hasn't felt in years. As she walks through the house one more time, it feels different. Not haunted or abandoned, but waiting, patient. The footsteps she heard, the clean plates, the letter on the vanity. Sarah doesn't have explanations for these things, and maybe she doesn't need them. Maybe some houses hold on to the love that filled them. Maybe some places refuse to be forgotten. Maybe Eleanor found a way to keep her promise, to make sure Sarah came home. Sarah locks the front door behind her, but this time it feels like she's securing something precious, not abandoning it. She walks down the porch steps, across the overgrown yard, through the open gate. Emma looks up from her tablet as Sarah gets back in the car. "Did you find what you were looking for, Mommy?" Emma asks. Sarah looks back at the house, at the windows that seem to watch her with patient kindness, at the porch where she spent countless summer evenings, at the gate that stood open as if welcoming her home. "Yes, baby," Sarah says softly. "I found exactly what I was looking for." She starts the car, but she doesn't drive away. Not yet. She pulls out her phone and makes a call to the tax assessor's office. She has $8,000 in savings, money she's been setting aside for emergencies. It's not enough to cover the full tax debt, but it's a start. She'll set up a payment plan. She'll find a way. This house, her grandmother's house, her house, isn't going to auction. It's coming home, just like she is. As Sarah finally pulls away from 1847 Maple Ridge Road, she glances in the rearview mirror. For just a moment, she could swear she sees a figure standing on the porch, an elderly woman with silver hair, wearing a floral dress, waving goodbye, or maybe waving hello. Sarah blinks, and the figure is gone. Just a trick of the light, a shadow, a memory, but Sarah smiles anyway. "I'll be back, Grandma," she whispers. "I promise I'm coming home." The house stands silent as the car disappears down Maple Ridge Road. The gate remains open, no longer a barrier but an invitation. Inside, dust motes dance in the fading afternoon light. The mug on the kitchen table sits exactly where it was left. The letter on the vanity remains, its message delivered. And in the attic, among the carefully preserved memories and the evidence of a life lived with love, everything waits. The house has kept its secrets for 17 years. It can wait a little longer. Because now, finally, someone is coming home. Someone who will bring life back to these rooms, who will tend the garden, who will sit on the porch swing and watch the sunset, who will fill the silence with laughter and love and the sound of a child playing. The house knows this. The house has always known. Some places are more than wood and nails and paint. Some places are built from love, and love never truly dies. It waits. It endures. It calls us home. If this story touched you, if you felt Sarah's journey in your own heart, leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more explorations of places that time forgot but love remembers. In the comments, tell me, have you ever returned to a place from your childhood? What did you find there? Hit the bell to be notified when we explore the next mystery, the next abandoned place with a story that refuses to stay silent. Until the next journey, remember, home isn't just a place. It's a feeling, it's a memory, it's love that waits for us to return.